this is, to be honest with you, an area that I have never grown tired of talking about. I've hosted workshops and community discussions over being a fully functioning person for years. I think it was Carl Rogers actually once wrote a book on becoming a person, in which he talked about those 5 areas. You know, you cannot coach a person in life without coaching a person through growing in these 5 areas of functionality. Life coaches do not ever offer advice. All right, we can make suggestions, we can make proposals, we can offer provocations, but a life coach is never here to give advice. Right? For example, if I'm here giving you advice on how you should live your life right now, what I'm unconsciously saying is that I'm the expert of your life. All right, which is just complete delusion, isn't it? You know, in the same way that, you know, I'm not an expert over your life, you're the expert of your life. Right? You're the only person who's walked a lifetime in your shoes. You're the only person who knows what you want. You're the only person who knows where you've come from. No one else in the world is ever going to be able to fully understand you, in the same way that no one else in the world is ever going to be able to fully understand me. We're each in this world alone. Yes, we have some people to do life with, but we're each living our own journey, which means that I could not congruently offer you advice on what you should do with your life, because I don't know. Your life is your responsibility. The only person whose life I'm responsible for is myself, and I'm also responsible for my family. All right. Life coaches do not teach or lecture. All right? Life coaches do not teach or lecture. Hence the reason I'm doing my best to deliver this training course in a way that isn't just a dry, boring, stuffy lecture. I know it goes against the grain a little bit, but my goal here is to impart the years of experience and insight that I've gained, all right, to equip you to get further faster, all right, to become effective. It took me years, many years, to really understand the essence of coaching, because no one told me. And I spent years and thousands of pounds attending, you know, various training courses, and it wasn't laid out as simplistically as this. Life coaches do not teach or lecture, right? In my years of coaching people, back in the start, I'll be honest with you, I got this wrong, all right? I did get this wrong. I would spend sometimes maybe half a coaching session teaching a principle, right, trying to educate people. And sometimes I would lose coachees. A coachee wouldn't come back for next session. Why? Because people want results. They don't want to be lectured. They don't want a guru in their life. They have a problem that they want to solve, or a goal that they want to progress towards. They don't want to be taught stuff. So a role isn't to teach or lecture. Right? I've made this mistake in the past, and it's cost me my reputation around about 12 years ago for a season, one which I had to work back to claw back. Life coaches are not business consultants. All right, today more than ever, I mean, it really does sadden me. I have mentioned that the coaching industry isn't always integral. In fact, it's very rarely integral. I think it was only about 9 months ago, one of the latest courses I've enrolled on, it was an online training course, and it was a life coaching diploma course, a life coaching diploma. It was about 30 hours in duration, and there wasn't really any life coaching taught. There was a basic methodology, I think the goal setting methodology, which I'll explain later on, and a wheel of life and a few other coaching methods. And outside of that, around about 75% of the course was how to build a coaching business and brand. Completely incongruent. So life coaches are not business consultants. I've seen many people call themselves a life coach, next thing make themselves available and try to take on clients or coachees and say, I will help you build a business. That's not life coaching. All right, that's business coaching or business consultancy. Now don't get me wrong, it is possible for a life coach to work with a business owner, or to work with an executive. Why? Because business owners and executives are people who live life. Life coaches are not talking therapists. All right, we are not talking therapists. No, just not therapists at all, not alternative therapists. You cannot blend talking therapy with You cannot blend life coaching with tapping therapy or energy healing or anything else like that. You cannot do it, not congruently, not authentically. Coaching is about working with people to help them define their current circumstances, establish what they want instead, and then bridge that gap by identifying action steps and taking action steps. Talking therapy, about talking with people to feel better about the current circumstances that they're in. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. Some people need that. I get it. But it's not coaching. All right? Life coaches are not talking therapists. You do not ever need to know a person's background. You don't need to know what their relationship has been like with their mum and dad, their parents. All you need to focus on and all you need to understand is what they want and why they want it. All right? So you can help them to make wise decisions about the action steps that they take to get from here to there. Life coaches do not have all of the answers. I don't. There's a pretty good chance that you don't. There's a good chance that you might. I've got no idea, but I certainly do not. All right. The more I have learned about life, the more I've studied psychology, sociology, theology. I've studied all of the different alternative disciplines. In fact, I teach most of them, most of the main ones. The more I understand about life, the more I understand how little I understand, if that makes sense. You know, the more I come to understand myself, the more I understand how little I know of myself. The more I understand marriage, the more I understand how little I understand about marriage. You know, it's one of these things. The more I understand about business, the more I understand how little I understand about business. You know, there's just, as I say, no one has all the answers. So don't ever make yourself out to be. There's, again, you know, YouTube videos online, guys who claim to have a 3-step magical process for creating that amazing transformation, and it's nonsense. It's salesmanship. It doesn't work like this. It never has worked like this. It never will work like this. All right? There are salespeople, and then there's coaches. There's life coaches, right? Salespeople, then life coaches. Life coaches are not perfect experts of life. All right, I'm certainly not. You don't have to be. It's your get out of jail free card. All right, would you be horrified to learn that I've actually got a criminal record from many, many years ago? Don't get me wrong, I don't dabble in crime today, haven't done for a couple of decades, but back in my youth, in my late teens and early 20s, I went through a transition in life and I didn't know how to navigate it. I didn't have a wise role model at the time. I didn't understand that life coaching was a thing or that I could go to a life coach. I hadn't got into personal development. I certainly wasn't self-aware. And I made some reckless, emotionally charged decisions. Right? Spent a couple of nights in the cells. All right? Seriously, I have made a lot of money. I've made some reckless decisions and I've lost a lot of money. I have burned some relationships. I have made huge mistakes in business. But I've learned lessons along the way. All right, and I think this is the beautiful thing about life. It's the opportunity that we all have. Some people will make a mistake in the past and then define themselves by that mistake for years, sometimes decades. But a mistake's only a mistake if you don't learn from it. If you make a mistake in the past and you learn from it, then it becomes a lesson. All right, which means every mistake can become a lesson. The only fools in life are those who keep on making the same mistakes time and time and time again. All right, which I guess one of your responsibilities as a life coach, or one of your opportunities rather, is to help people identify the mistakes that they've made that they can possibly draw lessons from. But life coaches are not perfect experts of life. I'm not. Anyone who would claim to be is a barefaced liar. A life coach's purpose is to help people define what's important to them, to set goals and define the action steps that must be taken in order for these goals to be achieved or realised. All right, so at all times we are going to be coaching to the gap, right? Take this phrase and write it on your hand or imprint it somewhere. Coaching to the gap, right? Forever be coaching to the gap. If there's a gap, coach to it. Coach to the gap. Always be coaching to the gap. When teacher says something repetitively over a minute, it's not because he's just being repetitive for the sake of it. It's because it's very, very important, because teacher wants this principle to sink in. Coach to the gap. What is the gap between what they have and what they want? What is the gap between where they are and where they want to be? All right. This is what people need. There's a big difference between what people need and what they'll claim they want. Sometimes what people claim to want is very, very different from what they need, which is why we've got to coach to the gap, because the gap can only ever be bridged when people find more effective ways of meeting their needs. Sometimes what people want doesn't bridge the gap and get them closer to where they want to be. It actually just directs them further away from where they actually want to be. All right. People need to decide on a direction for their life. This is life, right? It doesn't matter if it's in family, it doesn't matter if you're coaching a young single man or a young single woman, or you're coaching a transgendered man or a transgendered woman, or a businessman or a businesswoman. It makes no difference whatsoever. People need to decide on a direction for their life. When a person does not have a direction for their life, they can sometimes spend years and years and years going round and round in circles, just trying to feel better about the life that they've built for themselves. All right, some people end up like perpetual Peter Pans, never growing up, never progressing, never moving forward, just finding or trying to find new strategies to feel better about their current circumstances. So whilst many people might not be able to articulate this, all right, it's important that you understand that people need to decide on a direction for their life. You do. Come on, like a voodoo. You know I'm telling the truth here. You need to decide on a vision and a direction for your life. A person without a direction, without a vision, will perish. All right? Emotionally. A person who is not working towards something has nothing to look forward to. Right? It's the first part of the coaching process. And what do you want? A lot of people will spend a lot of time talking about all the things that they don't want in life. Right? Which is why when a person is stuck in that hole and you're having that first conversation with them and they'll tell you it's cold down here, I don't like this hole, I don't feel happy down this hole, that's great. But what do you want instead? I want to be out of the hole. That's great, but it's not specific. All right? What do you want? What direction do you want to take once you're out of the hole? Getting out of the hole is not a goal. Getting out of the hole is just a practical step that needs to be taken towards a meaningful life direction. Make sense? People need to choose a meaningful career path. Right, what is meaningful? For me, life coaching, when I first started many years ago, was meaningful for me. Teaching life coaching today is still meaningful for me. Why? Because all those years ago, it was the one thing that I benefited from the most. When I was in my hole, I'd fallen into this hole. I wasn't clear on a direction for my future. I wasn't clear on a career path. But it was one man who jumped into the hole with me and helped me out and said, okay, what direction do you want to take your life in? He asked me questions that I'd never been asked before. My parents never asked me those questions. Son, what direction do you want to take your life in? I'd never been asked these questions, so I'd never thought about them. All right. Sometimes you'll find, you might think that some of these ideas are really basic, but you'll be horrified to discover that some people haven't experienced basic levels of encouragement in life. All right. As I say, we all go through life completely differently. Some people benefit from having great, really wise, really responsible parents. And some people go through life fending for themselves from the ages of 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. And then there's everything in between. All right. So a career path, or a meaningful career path, is something that makes your life make sense, because you've got all these experiences in the past. All right. And all these experiences were either set to, put in place to tear you down and undermine you, or they were set to build you up and prepare you for using them. All right. Sometimes your greatest rejection can become your ultimate direction in life. People need to set meaningful goals for the future. Without meaningful goals, people have no direction through which they can set their efforts. All right. If you don't have goals, what do you apply yourself towards? How do you invest your time, your energy, your money, your resources? People become aimless. What's the old saying? Let your reach extend beyond your grasp. Right? Let your reach extend beyond your grasp. Think about it. If you're reaching for something, what are you doing? If you're reaching for something, you're pursuing something that you don't yet have in your hand. So always let your reach extend beyond your grasp. What's your grasp? Your grasp is what you already have. So your grasp is your current circumstances, it's your current situation, it's your life as it currently is. If you're reaching for more, then you'll always have a valid reason for getting out of bed in the morning. Many people don't have that reason. Have I mentioned yet that every single person in the world could benefit from a mature life coach? From a mature life coach. Every single person in the world. People must know who they are and who it is that they can become. Personality and identity is a central part of life, right? People have this tendency of acting and behaving out of accordance with how they define themselves. For example, you could end up working with a coachee, or you end up having a few sessions or coaching sessions with someone, and they have these great goals. They've got a goal to build a big business, or they've got a goal to go and change the world and start a world-changing movement, like a really big goal or something like that. But if they fundamentally identify as being worthless, useless, insecure, then they're going to struggle to make the demanding decisions that they need to make when confronted with challenge or hardship. All right? So one of the most prominent and most important foundations that we can lay in our own lives is becoming clear on who we are, who we aren't, and who we can become. Again, this is important because many people assume that personality and identity is kind of like fixed. You know, I am how I am, there's nothing I can do about it. And people live disempowered lives. But the truth of the matter is that, you know, identity is a choice. It has to be. Now, disempowered people will say that identity isn't a choice, hence the reason they'll fly certain colour flags and say, I am as I am. And it's the other reason why some people will get out of jail free, because they'll say, but you know, my personality is fixed, I can't change this. But personal responsibility precedes personal empowerment. All right, integrity. I tell you what, it is significantly easier to be deceitful than what it is to be integral. It's significantly easier to be lazy than what it is to be proactive, to be innovative, to be creative. But we're talking about choices nonetheless. All right? And people can only make wise choices in life once they're clear on what they want. So what I'm saying is that as we are coaching people in life, we want to be coaching people within these four contexts. We're coaching to the gap. All right? Don't get me wrong. Some people will be crystal clear on the direction that they want to take their life in. Some people will be clear on a career path that they want to take, and they're going to have clear goals. But they're not going to have the faintest idea on who they are or who they can become or who they need to become in order to fulfill these outcomes and goals. Then you're going to have other people who are completely secure in who they are, and they have a couple of goals, things they want to achieve, like nice ideas, but don't have an ultimate direction in mind, which deems all of their efforts completely ineffective. All right, so what I'm hoping to show you here is that yes, you can have a couple of coaching methodologies, but if you do not understand the human psyche and the battles that people have within, then you can't coach the entire person. All right, remember, we're working towards enabling people to become more fully functioning. And here's the thing, once people are clear in these four areas, people will function gladly by themselves and they won't need you anymore. All right. Incidentally, a coach, being a life coach, is not a permanent position. It's more of a transitioning position. Right. You're only ever going to be coaching a person through the transition of getting clear on all these things that they want. All right. Once people are clear on these things, they ain't going to need you no more. They might want a little bit of accountability, and accountability is good, but you know, as I say, coaching relationships start with the end in mind, and this is the end. All right, so I'm hoping that we are just clear now on what coaches are, what coaches aren't, and what the ultimate goal of life coaching can be.